have it archived at coffeecampus.com on the blog page. And it's also great to see Andrew Barnett here. Andrew, maybe you will also be willing to chime in with us. We'd love to hear a little bit how things are going with Linea Coffee. And I know I've seen a lot of activity on your social media about how you're managing these days of a very different looking business than a month ago.
Sure. Hey, Marcus. Hey, everybody. Good to see you.
Yeah, you too. Thank you. Thank you. And we'll bring Evan in if and when we see him. So, but Mokhtar, I'm happy to have you here as well. And for those of you that are joining, we wanted to have a discussion today about with some companies that are really building out their e-commerce, building out their direct to consumer sales through a real pursuit of quality, as we've talked about a few times on these sessions and conversations I've had with many of our clients and friends. People are still drinking a lot of coffee. They're just drinking it at home. So I'm excited to hear how things are going, you know, for a company like Port of Mokha, a company like Linea. And I think just to start it off, for those of you who don't know, it would be nice just to have a little quick introduction. Mokhtar, tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about your business, and then we can ask Andrew to do the same, and we'll jump into some more in-depth explorations of these topics.
Sure. Let me see if can you guys see me here?
You look great, buddy.
Okay, thanks. I'm wearing my hat here because under this hat there is a forest of hair. So I'm just trying my best to. It's unbelievable how much hair is actually under this hat. But I'm happy to be here with everyone this morning. And you know, I think as a coffee founder with you all, I think it's important that we stick together and that we feel that we have a kind of camaraderie and that we're all on this path together. I know that for me, it helps a lot when I have all these kind of dark thoughts that I hear someone else who's in a similar position, have similar struggles, and figure out a way we can kind of solve this thing together. My company, Port of Mokha, we work as producers and with producers in Yemen, and our goal is to try to improve the quality of their coffees, and in that route, improve the quality of their lives. So that's how our company, what our goal is, what we started to do. And most of our coffee we sell to roasters. We're lucky to find some really incredible partners here in the US and also in different countries abroad. And we try to work with roasters to tell the story of Yemen and our farmers. And we have a e-commerce side of our business, which because of some of our work, we have people who know about our story and want to engage with us directly. Our coffee on our website, it's more of a kind of gift website for people who want to, you know, who want to give a special coffee to somebody as a gift with a story. And so the situation we're in right now is something I don't think anybody would have ever thought as a scenario. It just sounds too fantastical that's happening. And I actually go through days where I get kind of underwhelmed and overwhelmed thinking about this situation we're in. And for us, the e-commerce business, it's really helped us stay afloat and helped us, you know, tremendously to weather through this while our other roasting partners figure out their B2B strategies. So my goal today is try to, because I've spent a lot of time, a lot of resources studying and doing this e-commerce work, is that other roasters can understand this business. Because if my goal is I want to make sure my producers and the producer friends that I have from around the world, from Brazil and Kenya and Rwanda and Ethiopia, that they, you know, the roasters that they work with are able to pivot digitally, and so that they won't get affected by this. I know that a lot of importers right now currently are still pretty good, you know, well stocked, but I know that many roasters are afraid that they won't be able to commit to the same amount of quantity that they had, you know, they usually do, or they had talked about. So yeah, I think e-commerce is a very important thing, and so I'm hoping to share whatever insights I have with you all, and learn also from you.
Great, yeah, thank you, Mokhtar. I know that, you know, this is something you've had kind of in the works and as part of your business for a little bit of time, as you've come by, we've tasted a lot of the coffee that you've roasted or your roast master has produced. And yeah, who would have thought that this would become such an important part of your business now a few months later, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, great. Well, I also want to have Andrew Barnett introduce himself and talk maybe just a little bit about Linea, and then we'll kind of get into the topic in earnest.
Yeah. Morning, everyone. Andrew Barnett with Linea Coffee, Linea Cafe. We're based in San Francisco. We're a coffee roasting company. We have one retail location in the Mission District part of the city. We are started a build out of a cafe in Petro Hill where we roast, and that has just come to a stop. And our business is, we're mostly wholesale. Our wholesale business is probably 55 to 60% of our revenues. Our cafe had been, before shelter in place, the cafe was probably close to a third of our revenues, our little 250 square foot location in the Mission. And then our web business was probably 2% of what we've done, our e-commerce side of our business. And we've seen, well, one is since shelter in place, we've closed down our Mission District Cafe, so that brings in no revenue. Sadly, we temporarily furloughed 2/3 of our staff, the folks that have been working in our cafe. And we, for us, our wholesale business, within 7 days of shelter in place, 80% of our wholesale clients stopped ordering, mostly restaurants and cafes. We're seeing that some of those folks are starting to put their toe back in the water, trying pop-ups, but a very small percentage. Our largest wholesale account, or our largest account that was responsible for 25% of our revenues, I won't mention their name, but they're very well known for when people do searches on the internet. You're familiar with them. And they're like a lot of tech companies. Their staff is working from home, and the question is, will their business model ever be the same? Will large corporate campuses continue to be what they were pre-coronavirus? We don't know that. But we have a lot of coffee in our position that we purchased for that client. We have a 2-year on-sign contract, which I'd rather not go into. It's more of a verbal agreement. There's another year on that. But my focus isn't on being litigious or going a legal route. It's really, how do we pivot Linea as a company? So the plus for us, the silver lining, is our web business, which was 2% of our revenues pre-coronavirus, is now 65% of our revenues. It's grown 1,300% in the last 5 weeks. Unfortunately, I'm not a e-commerce guy. I'm not a marketing guy. I like looking at these things, but I just learning how to write MailChimp newsletters and work on that a bit, but I'm slow, and they're effective. Just sending out newsletters to guests, they respond to that. So that's been positive for us. And then just kind of going back to what Marcus said earlier, is that people are drinking more coffee, or people are drinking coffee at home. One of my dear friends, he's vice president of marketing at La Marzocco, Scott Callender. I was talking with Peter Giuliano, and they were having a conversation. It was one of their webinars, but the conversation is, are people drinking more or less coffee now that they're sheltering in place and working at home? From my experience, my wife Kathy and I are drinking more coffee. Scott and Peter Giuliano's take is people are drinking more coffee. And I guess maybe the question is, I don't know if anyone's done any type of survey, are people drinking more or less coffee, but I would imagine that people are working at home, they want to function. Coffee's, it tastes great and it's wonderful for stimulation and it helps get work done. And my sense is a lot of folks are drinking more coffee, and if they're going to give something up in their life, coffee will be one of the last things to go. Scott Callender said that he thought that perhaps people are drinking more coffee, but drinking less, that they're giving up a little bit on the quality of the coffee in order to have it. We don't know that. We're not seeing that in our web sales. I've heard some of our San Francisco roasting colleagues saying that they're selling more single origins than others, and another colleague on a web conference saying that what they were seeing was that people were buying more geishas and other kind of high-end, more expensive coffees.
No, and I think we can get an interesting perspective from Mokhtar on that, since of course his business has been built around some very exotic and interesting coffees. And I know that Mokhtar, you also recently launched your kind of blend of different lots, right? For a little bit more of a price point coffee, is that correct?
Yes. So the overall theme is that there's a silver lining through all of this, and this is an incredible opportunity to learn a lot about a different side of our businesses. That when this is over, eventually, you can hopefully have two streams of income now. I'll say one. I mean, the vast majority of people are being affected negatively, you know, and especially in coffee. Coffee is a essential good for most people, or for many people at least. And so the demand is not slowing down. Whether it's decreasing or increasing, it's definitely not decreasing. The route it's going to take to get from the roaster to the consumer is shifting. And even when this is over, there are now consumer trends that are changed. People who are afraid of buying online are more interested in buying online now. And people who never made a pour over at home now are bored at home, and I learned how to make pour over for the first time and are loving it, are getting through those hurdles. And so I want to go into detail just about what does e-commerce mean, because it sounds like when my book came out in 2018, I thought that if I just had a website, people would somehow find me, and you know, I can make some money through just sales, direct sales online. It's not really the case. It's much more complicated, much more detailed. And so there are things I just did not know about. But to make it very basic, it's really about three things. It's about driving traffic into your website, and we'll speak about that. It's about converting those people who come to your website to become customers. We'll speak about that. And the third is, it's about retargeting and reacquiring those customers. And these are kind of the three things that, you know, the goal of e-commerce is.
That's perfect. And Mokhtar, I just, because we don't have him for the whole call this morning, but we do have also Valerian here on the call, who he's been a great help with all of our e-commerce strategies, and through his own company, Unleashed, he's explored avenues through Amazon, through direct sales. So I think those 3 points are awesome. And I would just also like to have Valerian introduce himself quickly and kind of become part of this discussion, because just welcome, Valerian. I know you've lived through a lot of these things.
Hey guys, good morning to everyone. I'm a little bit put on a spot, Marcus, so.
I know. Well, thank you though. And I did actually hear back from Evan. He just texted me that he had a family emergency with his 3-year-old, and he's sorry that he can't be with us.
No, well,
So thank both you and Andrew for being willing to be on the spot.
well, anything for you guys. So, you know, I work with you guys for your e-commerce and your advertising, and also I have my own brand, the Unleashed Coffee, which is in the United States. And you know, I think the most successful brand is actually Green Plantation, which is in Europe. And I mentioned it, I think, in the previous call, that Green Plantation is not doing that bad in this time, which is kind of super weird for us because, as Andrew mentioned, we also lost all our wholesale customers. And we basically, what we do is online sales. But, you know, margins on online sales are much higher than the wholesale. And online sales really, really increased. So at the end of the game, financially, we might be more than okay, to be honest. So, I mean, our story is positive in negative times. But also, it, you know, like Mokhtar mentioned it, it's very important to not just have a website and sit there, because that will not do anything for you. You really have to market it. And there's different ways to market it. I mean, you know, there are the free ways, what many people do on social media, but there's also paid ways. And I think Mokhtar did an amazing job how he broke down to these 3 key points, you know, how you basically make your website or your e-commerce site successful. And that's what we do with Green Plantation. But I will add there's a little like a spice to it, that these times are super weird, and you can find customers on places where you were not even thinking about. You know, we are experimenting with, for example, I never used Google Ads too much. I did use them, but they were super expensive. Now they're super cheap. I don't know why is that, but anytime I go on Google Ads, my ads are super cheap. And that might be, you know, you might find some of your customers on Reddit. Reddit offers ads. We're experimenting with Quora. Quora runs ads. And I know those are kind of things you never thought of, but I have to say Quora is very good for coffeecourses.com, which is our online education with Boot Coffee. And, you know, I was surprised. And this is a time when you can experiment. With Green Plantation, we do one more thing, because as Mokhtar mentioned, there is a situation when some people are scared still buy stuff online. So we're like, okay, how can we kind of ease that? So in locally, because the Green Plantation roaster is in kind of a small town in Slovakia, so you know people are a little bit more conservative. So we decided to do door-to-door delivery. Works like a charm. We were surprised ourselves. So we doing these things we never thought of doing, and for us so far, everything we poke in was kind of luck, you know. So it does work. We just never thought doing that. When it comes to Unleashed Coffee, actually, we lost. I mean, Amazon changed their rules. We sell a lot of prime, meaning that we send in our coffee to warehouse, and we sell green coffee and roasted coffee. So, you know, we don't know if we can send it into the places, because they canceled it. They said only healthcare. You can send in only healthcare and some, you know, food and stuff like that. So some important stuff to Amazon warehouses. So we're not sure that, you know, what's up with that. So we kind of did it a little bit, you know, we still don't know what's the situation. But one thing happened. So with Unleashed Coffee, you have to understand that we have the website, unleashedcoffee.com, and we have the Amazon store. And my opinion, this is not my business partner's opinion, is that when we started the Amazon store, we shot ourselves in our leg. Why? Because we did have unleashedcoffee.com sales, and we opened the Amazon store, and everybody from our website went to Amazon, because most of the people do have Prime and they prefer the Prime. It's fast, it's free shipping, but obviously the free shipping you pay as a seller. So our margins got much lower than before. Right. But now, because we cannot send into the Amazon store, actually people order through Amazon and we ship it, which means much higher margins for us. And hopefully, and now I can add little like postcards and things into the free samples to the boxes. So it's not the warehouse which ships it, but me. So I can decide how can I manipulate my customers, and we want to give them incentives to go back to a website. So that's, again, like we lost a lot of sales with Unleashed Coffee on Amazon because we are selling out of stock. but there's an opportunity here, which I think on the end of the day might be even better.
Right.
So I don't know. Anything I left out you wanted me to talk about?
No, that's a great perspective, Valerian. Thank you. And you may have some questions or comments as well as we dive deeper into this. But I think just as we're talking about driving business to websites and driving traffic, converting those visitors to customers, and then retargeting them, Mokhtar, I just wanted to pull up your Instagram here on my computer. Because I am really curious about how your social media tactics work, how you sort of think about social media. You're one of the more active, both individuals and companies that I know with your Instagram stories, but also your feed. And and how you really think about tying those things into driving those 3 bullet points you discussed. And of course, I want to give you some more time to talk about specifics of how you're driving traffic, converting customers, and retargeting and reacquiring customers.
So I'm going to, I know you guys hate coffee puns, but I'm going to spill the beans here.
I love coffee puns, thank you.
As long as they don't get too dark. Scroll down a little bit. Okay, you see in the first part of the page how the colors are kind of uniform and kind of look, kind of similar, but keep going down more and more. Keep going. Now you start to see how you keep going down. It starts looking not that uniform, not that similar. And I go back up to the first part again. And so the reason why is we hired a content director, somebody to help us, a content strategist. So we mentioned those 3 things. I want to keep this as easy as possible to understand because it took me a while to understand this. So the first part was getting people to your website. And so imagine having a cafe somewhere in, the middle of nowhere, California, like in the middle of a cornfield, right? That's where we kind of were for a while. And then imagine having a cafe right down smack in Union Square. That's the goal we want to get to. So e-commerce really, it's actually the idea of physically moving your cafe or roastery from a low traffic place to a high traffic place. And the way you do that is through awareness. And there's a few ways of doing this. There are 3 types of media. And again, I'm not going to be able to answer everything in this one call. And also, I'm not as experienced as like Black Rifle, for me in the US at least, is one of the very few truly e-commerce coffee companies. And their numbers are just phenomenal. Like, how do you get to a point where you have 100,000 subscribers?
Right.
And you get to, double, they're in the 8 figures of revenue, high 8 figures a year. And they have, I think, just 1 cafe they recently opened. That's it. So I am very inspired to show that there is validation that this is a possibility you can do.
Right. Yeah. And I think, as part of that, Mokhtar, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this. One of the reasons that I wanted Evan to join us, and again, I'm so sorry he's not here, but I've been so really inspired, and I use that company as a model often with students because to me, it seems that they're a major keystone of their success is defining that target demographic that nobody in coffee was reaching out to. The veterans, the first responders, that sort of group. And having a really sophisticated content generation model to get in front of those people, realize that nobody else is selling them coffee, and to build this business through that focus.
Absolutely. If you look at their team members, they have really just people who are phenomenal in e-commerce. But you can see they spent a lot of money and resources on that. So they have their CMO used to be the VP of brand strategy for Walt Disney. They have a VP of marketing who used to work at Cambridge Analytica. And so they spent a lot of time on data and data science. So here's the thing with, I don't want to jump too much, but for Black Rifle, I think they know exactly who they are. You go on the website, it's very clear. Coffee by veterans for patriots. If you love America, you love this coffee. You drink this coffee, and you see that everywhere. Whether or not I agree on some of their messaging or their images, but they definitely were smart in targeting an underserved community of people who are a huge population of our fellow citizens that didn't feel heard in the coffee community. And then
Exactly.
they
And
developed.
it's legitimately so, right? I mean, they're coming from the background as veterans themselves and people that worked in special forces, and yeah, you can't fake that stuff, right?
No, if you as someone who's worked in war, in a war country, it's people don't understand war. And I watch, if you get a chance to go on Black Rifle's website, go on their about and look at their video of their company's videos. About 5 minutes. It's worth watching. It's a very powerful video. And it's Evan's personal journey of going through war and why he chose this route. And he talks about veterans coming back home really broken and not being understood by civilians. So he's like, I want to build something for them, our community for them. And, and people who are in law enforcement, people who are they understand this. And so back to so there's 3 types of media. There's, I think, and Valerian mentioned them earlier slightly. There's earned media, there's paid media, and there's owned media. So earned media is when you have a very interesting story, articles, publications are looking for interesting stories, and so figuring out ways to tell your story in an interesting way to different, whether you're coming out with a new coffee origin or subscription or a new product, or your story as a founder maybe, or how you're dealing with, there are different ways to connect something interesting about your company, how you're dealing with COVID as a local coffee roaster, and pitching that to publications, either yourself or through PR companies. You can engage with PR companies, which might be expensive. And we've done that. We've done both. With earned media, they'll mention you. Each publication has, X amount of visitors a month, impressions, they say. And the idea is that they'll find you through that article. It doesn't necessarily mean it's going to convert to a sale, but they'll find it you. The second is paid media. This is media you pay for. Ads on Google, social media, billboards, radio programs, podcasts, and Black Rifle, it's like, how do they get so much traffic to their website? It's because they spend a lot of money in paid media also.
What have you done for Port of Mokha, Mokhtar? What for the paid media part? How is that? How do you approach that for your company?
So for earned media, we're very lucky. We have an interesting story, and we've been able to have our story told in different publications. That's great. The second, the paid media is something that we're trying to get better in, and there's a couple of ways to do it. One is you pay for advertising. So like Black Rifle, you'll notice they're mentioned in Joe Rogan's podcasts, a very widely heard podcast. You see their logos in UFC octagon rings, and you notice they choose places where they think their demographic will be. Same with Valerian mentioned. Quora, a great place where people go to look for answers. It's a great place to target for classes online. And so for us, to do that, you have to have what's called a digital marketer, or growth hacker is another term for this person. And what they do is they take content that you have, or they make content for you, and they're able to deploy ads on different areas. So we've done this with social media and through Google and SEO, search engine optimization. And there are different, I've worked with agencies where they'll, give you a flat fee or flat rate, and they'll do, SEO or PPC, it's called paid per click for you. And I've worked with one person, which I think it's better to work with one person, and you can even do revenue sharing deal with this person. You can figure out ways, or commission based, or split 50-50, where they kind of, feel incentivized. And they'll come into your website and they'll see how to, first, do you have a website that's optimized for e-commerce? They're the ones who can take pictures that you have, create, they can help, if you can, either you create the ads for them, or they usually have people who can do that for you. And they'll take those ads and they'll test them out. Once they find out what ads are converting and who the demographic is, and they get very specific. They can say, we look for, 20 24 to 28-year-olds in this area of San Francisco who also buy from Bed Bath and Beyond, and who, or who make an income of, 180 to 220,000. They can get very specific about who that target is, and they start with very low numbers, like $20 a day, $50 a day, just to see what, before they put a lot of money into it. But once you figure out what ads are converted and which target to target, it's phenomenal how fast you grow. So that's paid. And the last one, owned media, which is really hard, and it's something that Black Rifle does really well. When you develop your own content, your own videos, your own pictures. So this image you see here, we worked with this content strategist, and this content strategist, his job was to help us understand, what does a Port of Mokha color or logo or image photo look like? What is our tone for our brand when we speak to people? It has to be very consistent. And then I used to just post pictures whenever I felt like it. Once a day, twice a day. It's Valentine's Day, I should post something now. The way you're supposed to do it, you have buckets of content. In our case, we had, I think it was 4 buckets. If you look here, you'll see product shots. You see quotes from like history, fun facts. You'll see quotes from media. And I think the last one was, it's like 4. I forget the exact, the 4 of the contents. And then what you do is, a lot of the work really is in the pre-production. It's just coming up with these content buckets, sitting in front of a computer. We have someone we hired to just, to fill up those buckets. So they did is, I guess we spent probably a month figuring out what these buckets are going to be. You can decide whatever you want to decide they're going to be, 4 or 5 buckets, 6 buckets. And then each bucket we filled it up with a bunch of images and a bunch of, quotes. And then there's actually an app called Later for Instagram. You can put them all into this app, pre-plug them, and you can be consistent, saying, okay, every Tuesday and Sunday and Thursday, we're going to release a picture. And it's going to be, and we see which, based on the image on the Instagram analytics, which day and time do we have the most engagements. And so we put those pictures, and it's just consistent. It's very consistent, and they see it over and over again. And so the thing is, here's the thing. There's this idea called, I think it's called jab, jab, hook. It sounds violent, but it's the idea of giving people value, giving them free information, free photos, and then selling them something. If you sell too much, people are not interested. They think you're coming off too hard, or that you're a salesperson. So the brands that do really well are ones that are able to give value to the customers. There's a company called Travel Noir, and it's a Black people of color travel website. They do package experiences. And I know the founder, she, for the first year, and this is an example of like an interesting for an e-commerce company, because e-commerce takes a lot of work early on to build it up. She spent a year just doing content, no sales, no products, just really interesting content about people of color traveling around the world, really high quality photos. They had blogs, tips for advice, where to go, what to do. As a woman traveling in Thailand, what to do, what not to do, and they reached, I think, over 100,000 followers after a while. And after that 1 year, they launched their first package, which is a gift package or travel package to Thailand. A very unique package experience. I think it was $4,000, but they had built so much customer loyalty and a strong base that sold out within 10 minutes. It sold out.
Wow.
And in coffee, an example for us, there's a company we work with called Momo's. Momo's is a great roaster in South Korea. The world barista champion, Jion, she's like the head barista there, one of the leaders in that place. And so what they did is very smart. They have a really good following. I think they have 50,000 followers on their social media, which is a lot for, in Korea. They pre-launched our coffee that they bought from us. And within an hour, they sold out. And so the goal is to get to that point where you have enough followers, that, and they like engaging with you, that when you release something, that they, that they buy it even before you roast it.
Sorry.
Sure, that's as far as I go for this one. Go ahead, Valerian.
So, I love your Instagram page. It's great, but it's to be honest, a lot of small guys cannot afford to make this. I mean, this production is beautiful, by the way. The photos are amazing. So obviously, you have somebody who is a high talent in your brand. But what I see very successful for smaller brands who, let's say, cannot afford productions like these. These are like everyday stories from your brand, and excuse me. And I think as you grow, as you get more people coming, people just love those because they wanna, especially when you are a small roaster in a certain area, people wanna relate to you. People wanna see, oh yeah, this is one of me. I mean, you mentioned the Black Rifle coffee. I think that Black Rifle plays very well for the key of every marketing, and that's emotion, right? So emotion and belonging to some group, they both so important, and they do that very well. And that's what you can do with your own personal stories on Instagram and I'm not talking about the stories as the story. Of course, you can fit that too, but pictures from your roastery, pictures of your staff, pictures of your customers. What works very well with Green Plantation recently, people are bored at home and they started to make beautiful animations, pictures. One guy made a crazy, amazing video. Actually, I want to hire him for our course, coffeecourses.com. He made a beautiful video with Chemex. And when you repost these, those are amazing social proof. And as you said, Mokhtar, you have to get there. You have to have enough people who care about you and buy your coffee, and they're talented. But I think that if you cannot afford these beautiful production, what Port of Mokha does, just start with honest stories about your brand, and people would appreciate it, I think.
Yeah, and
I think, go ahead, Marcus.
Oh no, I was just going to say, I mean, that idea of stories, and I think it's the authenticity of these stories,
right,
is so key. And Mokhtar, and clearly, like, that helps you to convert to sales, right? That's that jab hook idea. But can you talk a little bit more about, like, once you actually get somebody on your website, what are you putting in place to make sure that they do actually click that purchase button? And then I think it segues perfectly into that, retargeting, reacquiring, getting them to subscribe. What does that whole process look like?
Right before I answer that, Valerian, you're absolutely right. We got very lucky. One of our, we have a very small team, and Jeremy, who works with us, he does QC, he does a bunch of stuff for us. He happens to have a background in documentary film making, and so we were able to access to make these really cool photos and even videos. But Valerian is right, and Marcus, you're right. Even something simple like having a mug and having a post-it and having a positive message, like, hang in there. We're just like something very beautiful, and having that be one of the buckets. And every Monday and Friday, you post a different picture of a mug with a different post-it. These are things that you don't have to have a crazy production to do something like that.
Oh,
And your question,
Andrew at Linea has done a wonderful job with this. And if he's still available, if he could unmute, maybe he could talk about the way that he's responded to his local community and first responders. And I think, Andrew, I've been really impressed with how sort of personal you've made your social media channels through all of this.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, one of the things we're doing right now is we've set up a deliver coffee, donate coffee to first responders on our website. So we're fortunate that we had a website up, and we just set up a page for people to make donations where they can have our coffee and Buy Right Market pastries delivered to different hospitals, San Francisco Fire Department, and we have a form on our website where guests can suggest a hospital and we contact them. But it's been a mix for us this last month of that's one of our programs, and the other is just letting people know we're still roasting coffee and that we're in business, and we've thanked people for their support. And when we close the cafe, we're kind of let them know. We've never said, hey, we're going to go out of business, or we're in dire straits, even though our numbers were going. I think it's just thanking people and reminding them that we're here. So it's been a mix of things, our messages. Fortunately for us, our online sales have increased.
That's great. Yeah, thanks for sharing that, Andrew. Because it is, I've really enjoyed watching I think it's a combination of, I follow you both personally, and I also follow your companies, and sometimes they get a little blurred, which I think to me is really powerful when your personal brand and your company brand. That also is that kind of really genuine and personal storytelling.
Thank you.
So,
Yeah, and I really admire Linea. Like every time, I just wanted to know, Andrew, every time you post on your Instagram, like my heart like just connects to you, and I literally either take the link or snapshot it and tell my friends, please buy this coffee, and especially because you do it every day, I think it's really important to be consistent. And like when I think of local San Francisco coffee roaster, you're one of the ones that come to mind right away. And so I think you're doing a great job, and also you support a lot of my friends, like Felipe and his father Marcos and his whole family. They're really important people and who helped me a lot in my journey. So thank you for supporting them.
Yeah, they're fantastic. So, I mean, I think one thing I wish is that there are different ways as a group. Maybe some of the specialty companies can come together under an umbrella. I think that this is a great time. I think there's opportunity. Some of our, I would say, colleagues, competitors, Blue Bottle, are slowed down their cafe operations. But I think this is the time, maybe there are opportunities for us to work together. And I think that the Golden State Warriors, one of their mottos is strength in numbers. And I really believe the same is true for the local, smaller, medium-sized independents to get that message out that we're still here. Specialty coffee, high-end or high-quality, quote-unquote, third wave is delicious and it's easy. And, per ounce, per cup, it's a great value. And I think there's ways to work together. I haven't figured that. Sometimes I think I'm looking for the bigger companies or the SCA or the NCA to deliver that, but I think it may be more ad hoc, that we're going to have to get that out there. And I know the media's done a little bit of locally. I was happy to see some of the shout outs for Ritual and for Andy Town, for Wrecking Ball and the SF Gate. But I also wish that there was a little bit more. I know in New York, Liz Clayton and Bruin a piece for New York Eater about all the cafes. It had a long list of those that had online coffee available if they were just online, and how to get that coffee, which cafes still had takeaway or takeout service. So those are things, the Bay Area has done a little bit of that, so I'm very happy, and I wish there was even more. So maybe that's a way we can gather as a group. So that's me just free floating. I'm not here to complain. I'm just thinking there are opportunities because there are so many people out there. They're drinking coffee at home and they want delicious coffee.
Yeah, 100%. And Andrew, do you work with any of the kind of third-party subscription services?
We don't.
Okay.
So everything is driven by our newsletters. Our MailChimp base is really small. I mean, we have 1,200 people to get our newsletters, and we've asked through our social media. Sometimes I forget to if they know someone that might be interested to share that information, and that's been successful. So I think that's a very powerful thing for other companies, is to ask your community to help share that. If you know someone, to share that story about your company, that you're around, that you have this great product, this great experience. So that's been beneficial to us. And sometimes you're surprised, a friend of a friend who shares your story, and then you get a sale and a new customer. So that's benefited us.
Yeah, I love that. And I think, to echo what Mukhtar said, when I think of Linea, I really think of you all as being like the coffee that's like the beating heart of the mission, and being so closely tied to one place is a really interesting opportunity and special chance to connect with customers. We have another customer that I've been talking to a little bit. He's been a student of mine. Kith and Kin is his company name in rural New Mexico, a town called Artesia.
Oh, wow.
And and here Rob is trying to figure out how to do delivery to his small town, how to keep his company kind of front of mind, and like you said, I think he's looking at outreach. And I saw on his social media the other day they did a cinnamon roll battle where he and another baker made a bunch of cinnamon rolls, and they saw who sold out first from his cafe's pickup window right now. So yeah, I think it's kind of cool. Just to hear these stories about how folks are engaging with their local communities. And Mukhtar, you're kind of targeting more of a global community, but, and I would love to hear a little bit about how you're kind of making sure that folks aren't just purchasing coffee once online, but coming in
Yeah,
to really that reacquisition.
you asked a very important question that I really want to make sure that people come out of here with like something, and e-commerce is such a big thing. It's very hard to grasp.
I agree. So we have
And
10
so
minutes. Let's really hit it home with with some takeaways.
you asked, like, when someone comes to your website, what do you do? And so, okay, the technical answers are, it's about the data you have. And so we had early on, like a year and a half, 2 years ago, some really big, when the book came out, a lot of like great articles came out with huge, like, people who follow. But because we did not have the proper things set up for analytics, meaning that people came to our website, we had no idea, how to retarget them, who they were. We lost the opportunity to be able to engage with them again. And so, here's an example of a funnel, right? You make an ad, a picture of your coffee brand cup with the Chemex or something, and then let's say you use Facebook or Instagram, and you target certain people, and they see the ad, right? And they click on the ad, and they go to your website. Okay, so the ideal situation is that they buy something, right? But let's say they don't. You should have the analytics set up where you can see like who came to your website. Oh, the people who abandoned cart, those are the first people you want to target. Mm-hmm. So what happens to them? They get an email automatically, or they get retargeted. Okay, first email, or let's say another example, you have an email list. Like Andrew, you have your email list, 200 people, which is a pretty decent list. And emails have the highest ROI, by the way, for conversion of companies. They say about, sometimes 20%. And so you send out an email, and let's say they open the email. Okay, they go on the website, see something new you offered. They don't buy it. They leave. You have a funnel where they receive another email, different kind of email within a few days, or they receive a targeted ad on the Facebook, and then they go back to. It's like a funnel. Like the end of it is checkout, and it's very technical. And so, unless you have a lot of time to learn this stuff, I couldn't learn it. You try to find someone to hire, a digital marketer, and that's like the first thing you have to do. Set up your email, set up everything for you to be systemized. So it's not just you sending emails when you feel. It's a controlled system. I'm going to work maybe with Boots, you guys, to just give you like with a low budget, what can you do? Because I had to do that. There are things that you can start doing on your Facebook, social media. You should be active with people. And I'll give you, and I'll end with a very great story. And I said, like, yes, unfortunately, a lot of people are going to be hurting. There's going to be a lot of consolidation after all this happens. But the ones that are going to be successful, the small ones, are the ones that were agile. There's a roaster I work with in Kuwait, out of all places, and they were the first to have like shelter in place, like around March 6th, I believe. And they were, they had no wholesale accounts at that point because of how strict it was there. They began doing things like workout tips for their customers, positive messages, pictures of their coffee, like very low budget things that they did obviously in-house themselves. And also discounts. They are at a point now after about a month where they're now making the same revenue that they were making when their shop was open, which is phenomenal. Which means that when stores open up again, that they're going to have dual income now. E-commerce is going to be this big thing they have extra from. So my advice is to, if you can afford a digital marketer or find a way that can make sense for your company, you should invest in that. If not, I want to write, publish something that I'll maybe through Boot or through on my website or on my Instagram, just some advice for e-commerce folks on how to look at e-commerce, because the things that Black Rifle are doing, it's so advanced. It's really incredible, but even I can't, and I'm not that level yet. But there are things that you can do definitely, and keep it authentic, to your story. It's all about just setting up a routine, a daily, weekly, monthly routine for emails. Don't send emails every day, by the way, because if you receive too many, pretend you're a customer and you see an email over and over again, Port of Mokha, you're going to unsubscribe. So think about a customer's experience. Think about the customer journey. So think about emails, think about Instagram stories, think about Facebook and Instagram posts, think about different types of content you want to release, and then just spend a week or a couple of days or whatever, just brainstorming those. Come up with creative ideas, blogs, how to brew guides. Like brew guides is one content bucket, that could be video, photo, or just a blog. Photoshops of your picture, your farmers, your coffee, fun facts. Like think about those things and think about it as a system, like weekly, daily, monthly, email, Facebook, Instagram, and once you spend time coming up with those contents, that's the hard work. The rest of it is just like releasing it as those days go by. And that's my best advice. I think that we should do, it's been really helpful for me to I literally have like 3 or 4 times a week, I have different roasters that I talk with and friends in the industry to see what's working, get advice from them, and just sometimes we just kind of self-commiserate between each other, but
Right.
it really helps.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think this call is kind of, that's one of the things that this is for me, in addition to some other Zoom chats that I join in throughout the week. Mokhtar, can I put you on the spot? Do you want to do these sort of online tips that you're talking about? Do you want to do an Instagram live sometime this week?
I'll do the best I can from what I could do. I think it's also important to look at other industries that are more advanced in these kind of things. Yep. For coffee than coffee. I know like wineries who are doing, like e-commerce is not slowing down, it's growing. I was looking at numbers for Black Rifle. They went from 75,000 subscribers to 100,000 subscribers in COVID. Yeah. So it's definitely increasing, and it's actually an opportunity to engage with your customers through something like this. So I'll do my part, because again, like for me, it's important that roasters are successful, because I can sell them my coffee, and my friends who are producing coffee now and getting ready to ship their coffees, in a few months, and they're the ones who are they're gonna face a lot of uncertainty. Even us, we're very high end, like coffee company. We focus on like special coffees. We probably will release like special, like limited geishas, and other coffees we think that fit our customer profile. But yeah, I think that this is an opportunity to grow your customer base. There's a story of Go Get 'em Tiger, this really interesting roaster in LA. I love this company. Mm-hmm. They were one of the first to do like apps that allow you to pick up your coffee. And so now those customers have been converted to subscribers. So it's just, technology is not always a bad thing. I look at it as a way to help farmers and tell our stories. And it's also a way to make a bigger impact in sales than just having foot traffic and wholesale accounts.
Yeah, no, thank you, Mokhtar. That's great. I'm excited to continue this discussion with you, and maybe we can find a time. I'll connect with you offline, and we'll try to see if there's a chance for you and I to maybe continue this on like an Instagram live chat or something too. Because I've really enjoyed reaching out to our base using those tools as well. And Andrew, thank you so much for your perspective on all of this as well. I think this was a really special talk, hearing about Mukhtar, you're kind of have this, for a smaller company, you have a very sophisticated online presence. And Andrew, and I love hearing like from the heart and how you're continuing to connect with your local community through your mail list, through first responders. I think that's really special.
Thank you, everyone. Great to visit with you.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Marcus, for starting this conversation and having the space for us. I love Boot Coffee. I didn't mention this, but we actually work with Boot and Valerian for our B2B marketing for our auction, which was very successful. So I hope you guys offer that service, and maybe you guys can help become a space for cafes to look for digital marketing experience and consultation. I recommend that, Boot Coffee fully for that. It helped me a lot and to get to where I am today.
Yeah, no, thank you so much, Mukhtar. And we do have a couple of sessions. It's like you keyed me up just fine. A couple of our online learning webinars coming up. One is Roasting Business Fundamentals, which is a 2-day session. A part of that will be focused on branding and promotion, also some of the like operational nuts and bolts. So we can continue this discussion and learning there. And I also just want to say that next week we are inviting some folks to talk about, as again Mukhtar was talking about, what the impact of this might be on farmers. We're going to talk to some folks who in the past have put together a Tip the Farmer program, premium sharing rewards, which was an initiative I launched in Rwanda, and just other programs that are looking to give back some like revenue sharing to farmers basically. So look forward to seeing everybody for that call as well. But thank our presenters so much. Valerian had to jump off, but thanks to him as well. Mukhtar, Andrew, everybody, we'll see you next week.